Hello and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast that has the science and the screaming to unequivocally figure out what the best movie is of any given year. I'm your host, Mike Gravano, and this season we're digging into 2001. This week specifically, we'll be talking about Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11. With me, I cannot do that alone. I'd have to slowly tell you about all my friends, and then suddenly you look up and they're there next to me. You got to have your bing bang. When you're talking to a podcast and talking about this kind of heist movie, you got to have your bing bang, and this bing bang is my best friend who won last week is Ryan.
Mike, you have to have at least 2 Hank Hills, right? 1 Ella Fitzgerald, 3 Weird Al Yankovics, and a Scott Aukerman. And I'm going to try to be all of that for you.
You cannot, because we got the best Weird Al in the business, and that's Greg.
Hey, oh man. I wish I had my accordion. Oh well, next time. We'll do it next time, everybody.
If you guys had to learn one goofy instrument, what would it be?
Not the accordion. That seems really complicated.
It's difficult. It's several instruments taped together.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
I think if you think about it, all instruments are goofy. All of them. You have to put your body in a weird groove, in a weird way, and then just be like, sound is coming out now.
Yeah, I've gone to lesson 1 of most instruments and then quit, and all of them are like, you got to put your finger in a way that feels really uncomfortable, that it definitely physically should never be.
And that's how you know you're doing it
right.
I will never do something that requires that I be uncomfortable, even for 1 second.
But Greg, that's your choice. That's not because you're like musically not talented. You are deciding to do that. I heard that the typical option is harmonica because it can't go out of tune. We do not have the ears to like tune an instrument, so it's harmonica.
Nobody wants to hear you play the harmonica, though. I think guitar, because I think guitar is relatively inoffensive to other people. You can get kind of okay at it. Just learn a few chords. Just do some strummies. Yeah,
the problem with so many instruments is the learning. It's going to sound horrible, and guitar horrible is not nearly as bad as harmonica. Sort of good. Like, dude. It's gonna be such an irritating sound until you're an expert on the harmonica.
When you guys think about it, were you glad that harmonica ended up with Har Chandler, or did you think that she should have ended up with Har Ross?
Oh well, Har Ross is her brother.
I'm gonna call my mom.
She should have been with Har Richard.
Oh,
Mom,
really?
Come pick me up,
Ryan.
Yeah, I thought he was great.
Har Tom Selleck?
Har Tom Selleck.
Dude, Tom Selleck was the heart and soul of that show. Obviously, moving on.
Yeah, you know what? We should move on because we're here to talk about Ocean's 11.
Also starring Elliot Gould.
Oh,
yes,
shit.
Good.
That's harmonica's dad.
Yes, and
he
was
wants
totally
a chippy
fine
in the city
with his best friend fucking his daughter 40 years junior.
As somebody who's about to have a daughter, can't wait for that shit from you two. Can't wait to deal with that.
I have often called myself the Tom Selleck of our friend group, and we will just see how true that is in 30 years.
Honestly, that does recontextualize it, like how gross that is. When I was a kid, that was just like presented as a relationship in that show, and so I didn't really think about it.
When you're a kid, they're all adults, basically the same age.
Yeah.
Now you're like, what the fuck?
Mike, if you try that funny business, I'm going to fight you.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Well, you'll know if it's cool if all of her friends start wearing the same mustache I have. Then it's not creepy. It's awesome.
I'm going to fight you preemptively.
Okay, that's fair. You know what? I respect
Tonight
you're a man
on
of
Movie
honor.
of the Year.
Well, staying 6 feet apart, Greg and Mike fight.
Speaking of dirtbags with honor, Ocean's 11. Overall, what is your relationship to this film, and how you feeling about it, Greg?
I saw it in 2001, and it was a fun time of the movies. It's cool,
a romp.
It's sleek. It's a romp. Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of fun. And then I hadn't seen it since. I have seen Oceans 12, 13, and 8. Never 9 or 10. I never saw 9 or 10. But right.
Ryan.
That's so deserved. I really appreciate that. These guys are keeping me in line. But and then I watched it recently for this show, and I think that there is a certain magic to watching this movie the first time that like inescapable, and you're just chasing the dragon from that point forward.
Interesting, Ryan.
So is it like going on Space Mountain right now? Just like, hey, twists and turns. Way to go, twists and turns. You've done it again, twists and turns. I fucking love this movie. I've seen it dozens of times. I've seen it 11s of times. Dozens minus ones of times. And this time watching it, this is going to be one of those shows. There's some things that I didn't notice before that I liked. There's some stuff that I didn't like before that now I'm sort of just okay with. But yeah, I think that this is like sort of the perfect, like the emblematic version of the popcorn movie, which I think a lot of people say that and they're like, well, it's fucking terrible. So therefore I'll call it a popcorn movie. And then like that will be, people will like not be mad at me that I like it. I think that this is right. Or even Transformers 2. Or like, for instance, as an example, Transformers 3.
Dark Side of the Moon?
I have a question, Ryan, but I'll wait until you keep going. It's about Transformers.
Okay, is it it's about Transformers
Bumblebee.
4?
It's
Does Bumblebee count?
I was going to say Ryan Bumblebee.
Yeah, Bumblebee counts, as sure. As does Transformers 4 or 5. I think that this is way better. This is a great popcorn movie. I don't know if it like competes with like the Haneke movies that we have watched in this season as far as like what is society, but I love this movie, and I'm about to find out over the course of the next hour and a half, do I feel bad about that or not?
I do have to say,
I can't wait for you to find that out.
It is the movie equivalent of a man cave, though. Mm-hmm. It really feels like...
Yeah, there's a lot of St. Pauli's Girl neon on the walls down here.
A lot of like big leather chairs, and there's a pool table, and everyone goes and kind of leans on and stuffs.
As much as I love this movie, it's crazy that the Entourage HBO show was like, oh, let's make a movie with this movie already existing.
Yeah.
Like, why did they do that?
You should have just made a TV show of Ocean's 11, Entourage. Going into the main show, I do want to let the listeners know that Ryan was my best friend for the whole last week. He won, and going into this, find out why they have these points over at patreon.com/yourpopfilter and hear the bonus segment where we build the Pro Stars 2001 cartoon, and based on that show, Greg has 4 points and Ryan has 5 points, and so we will continue to see how the points stack up throughout the show. This is not just a fun friend talk about movie show. This is fucking serious. This is Ocean's 11, movie of the year, when we come back. Ocean's 11 is one of the last true star vehicles of Hollywood, and helped create the heist boom that followed in the early aughts. Based on the Rat Pack film of the 60s, Steven Soderbergh replaced the crooners with a who's who of Hollywood's biggest names, from George Clooney to Julia Roberts, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, and a who's who of character actors, including Elliot Gould, Bernie Mac, Eddie Jemison, and Don Cheadle, to create a lived-in universe of criminal masterminds as they plan to rob 3 casinos, all owned by Andy Garcia's Tony Benedict, in a single night. Taste buds, I ask you this. With all of those stars, is this still Soderbergh's movie? How do we think he changed it over value over replacement director?
I think it absolutely is. And I think that it is a little bit of a director's experiment. You know, it's like when they go out and like, oh, what would it be like to do like a black and white art film from the 60s? And then we have to sit through that. This is different because it's entertaining, but it's absolutely his movie. And I think it's because that the screenwriter nailed all of the scenes that have people talking to each other, and maybe didn't do such a good job with all the scenes where people weren't talking to each other. And it may have been a little vanilla. And if we got our Vord, if we got like our Brett Ratner, if we want to set that person as our replacement
I would love
director,
to have a non-sexual
rapist?
assaulty person as our Vord. Yeah, Patrick Wilson is our Vora because he's such a good dude.
Well, let's say Patrick Wilson directed this movie.
Cool.
I think that Steven Spielberg is working overtime to have little seconds and moments of this being way more entertaining, way more of a throwback, and at the same time way more modern, and then also include 10 minutes of script in 30 seconds of screen time. This, like, if this movie came out in 2020, it would be 2 hours 45 minutes.
Well, it's interesting because it ultimately is an exceptionally simple movie. It's about what's supposed to be a very complex heist, but the first time we hear about the heist, it's we're not going to rob 1 casino, we're going to rob 3. And you're like, oh shit, this is going to be super complicated. And it's like, because they all share one vault.
Yeah.
And
which I'm sure they disincluded from the trailers.
That is, but I think that's part of what makes this movie work, right? Because what we really want is we want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney just sort of like chill and lean against a car and
just
hang
charm
out
at each other.
Yeah, and just talk, and then we want to watch Brad Pitt like eat something, which he is weirdly just the fucking master of.
In a shirt that not only could I never afford, but also would look terrible in, and then would also drip nacho cheese all over. Like Brad Pitt is eating this stuff and not destroying his clothes.
I have to say we are like we're going to be talking about the fashion later. So one of the things I did was like look at like everybody's clothes really close up. Man, Brad Pitt's collars are going off in this movie. His shirt collar, like they are cartoonishly big. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Yeah, it makes me think Ricky. What is his character's name other than Brad Pitt?
Rusty Ryan.
Rusty Ryan, which is now your new nickname.
Yeah, dude.
Well, sometimes I don't podcast for a week. I'm a little Rusty Ryan.
I do think if a movie was about him or we got to see him without this crew, it would be what a slimy douchebag he is. Based on his clothing and like his very familiar with the strippers and their lives. Like, I think that is his actual, he's the nightclub hound.
Well, that's part of the...
There's an argument to be made that like he's as sociopathic as Benedict. Like, Benedict is crazy. Like, no emotions. And Rusty Ryan might also be on that same level of, like, I want George or I want Danny to get his girl, and I want Linus to, you know, like, learn how to be a person, and I want this whole team to grow together. In the meantime, I'm a fucking psychopath with no emotions whatsoever.
I just need my burgers all the time.
That's, I think, part of the genius of this movie, and maybe this goes back to Soderbergh, because this is the kind of world that he constantly creates. First of all, Soderbergh, man, this dude be making a lot of movies. Like, I was like...
oh, it's like three a year.
I like to always look up the director, because usually I'm like, oh yeah, this director has made several movies that I like. And I know Soderbergh's big name, but I did not realize that he has made, like the average year in Hollywood, 75% of the movies are made by this guy.
I mean, this is the kind of guy who, like, he'll be walking down the street and he'll find $1 in the gutter and he'll be like, I'm going to make a movie. And then just have a $1 budget. One gutter dollar budget.
And that was haywire.
Part of the genius of this movie is he puts you on the inside of this group. And because you're on the inside of it, you see things the way they see things. And it's when you have that perspective, like Ryan said, of like moving yourself out of the group, then you can see that like they're not quite as nice as they appear. And that's what Soderbergh always makes this world where a gun goes off and it's funny and everybody laughs because nobody got shot. But it's only funny because nobody got shot. There's so many moments in this movie where it's like, because Soderbergh creates a universe that rewards risky behavior, it's cute. But there's so many times in the movie where if things just go the way they should go, it's not cute anymore because there's repercussions for these type of actions. And that's a part of the masculinity of this movie that ultimately makes it, I think, uncomfortable, is that it's like, it's their world. So if you're in part of that group, it's fun the way they do whatever they want in the world. But if you're outside it even a little bit, it's like, don't shut down the power to the whole city.
But, yeah, I think that's sort of the point of it, is that Soderbergh will go out and make 2 or 3 of these movies per year that like really show how devastating humans can be, you know, like really showing the human experience. And then this movie, where I really am going to do my best job to get you to ignore it. And the way that he does that is by basically taking all of the history of Hollywood and piling it in. I mean, if we really get into it, like, there are aspects of 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s Hollywood in this movie. And that is what he is relying on, maybe to a fault, but utilizing so you don't do that thing. You just enjoy what it's like to hang out with the cool people for the fucking first time in your entire life.
Some of that is by having Carl Reiner and Elliot Gould be part of the big crew. So it's like hearkening to different eras of Hollywood.
Okay, I thought you were going to say that Elliot Gould is not part of the cool people, because then I was going to you were going to catch some fists.
No, he's one of the 11 for sure. Elliot Gould is the coolest guy who's ever lived, man. Okay. I fucking love Elliot
I'm
Gould.
glad to hear you say that.
It's interesting because in so many ways, this is such a simpler, dumber movie than Mulholland Drive. But in the way that it like compresses all of these Hollywood influences and just wants to go out and have a good time, I have a feeling that like it would make David Lynch happy. I feel like he likes this movie probably. And you can see some of like the same sort of like reverential love for the stupid parts of Hollywood. Like, this movie celebrates kind of a stupider aesthetic than...
Yeah, and like I sort of love the fact that we watch these movies back to back, of like David Lynch showing us the worst of it and Soderbergh showing us the better. Like, this is it's the efficiency that I think ultimately makes Soderbergh the main star of the movie. I think that this movie could have been hours and hours and hours, but what we have is this very tight, and sometimes it gets a little annoying, right? When a character's like, well, I'm this character. How are you? Then that does get annoying.
The twins.
It also does slow down at weird times. Like there's times where like the pace kind of
and like I do not think that the paradigm of this movie, if you took the script and put it on any others after Soderbergh got done with it, it would fit on top of any other movie and match up. I think that the script was probably to the T exactly what a script should be. And how he fucks with it, how he fucks with the pacing, how he's going to be like, oh, minute 12, when we're supposed, this is very important, I'm going to slow this down. And then minutes like 20 through 27, where it's supposed to be fast, or like it's supposed to be slow, this is my time to shine, I'm going to make a montage. He is messing with you the entire time.
Yeah, pound for pound montage, more than any movie ever.
The whole aspect of time, he just doesn't care about. He cares about your entertainment more than that. And I think that's what makes the movie the most interesting.
He reversed Atlanta Burns, where, isn't it? I don't know. It's a half an hour film in Gone with the Wind, and it was one line. And he's like, "I'm going to take your 10 pages and put it into 30 seconds because do we need to watch them plan the thing and then do the thing? No, it's all in one shot, motherfuckers."
Right. I think that his decisions always go to what is going to make the most entertaining thing, and I think more often than not always, but more often than not, he does hit a home run. I think that he does do it correctly. And
I agree with that. And it is super fun. It's just, it feels maybe a little bit emptier in the same season where we've like dealt with these really heavy duty movies. And I know that like every movie gets judged according to what it's trying to do and everything, but I do feel like this is where you feel how that doesn't make everything like equal out, you know? I mean, I do feel like this movie struggles to be as relevant or as exciting or as interesting as Mulholland Drive, even though it is succeeding at what it's trying to do, maybe even more than Mulholland Drive is.
I think that Mulholland Drive is an all-timer, so that one is rough. But if we're going to compare it to the not the pianist, it's not the pianist, it's the piano teacher.
That's a different movie. Why are we doing that?
I don't know, and I'm so sorry.
It's a nightmare.
The pianist has Adam Brody from the OC. That's how we can remember it. If we're comparing this to the piano teacher, that's where it hits harder for me, is that those are the bars that are set so differently, and yet did they clear them well? I think that Mulholland Drive should be taken out because it's a top 50 movie of all time. With these two movies, I think that they're on the same level because of how what they're saying I'm going to execute, and then what they're actually executing.
Is style over substance fine when there's this much style?
I think so. I think that's where I'm going, is that I think so.
All right. Well, I'm sure we're going to continue to talk about how this movie has nothing to talk about for the rest of the show. We're going to take a quick break and look back at George Clooney's career. Hola, Filterinos. I just wanted to interrupt real briefly and say thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. If you want to support us a little more directly, you can go to patreon.com/yourpopfilter. There, depending on what tier you pick, $1 a month, $5 a month. If you're crazy, anything more than $5 a month, don't do that. You can get extra content. There's extra shows, extra series, behind-the-scenes stuff. You could pay for Ryan to draw you a picture. I can write you a poem. You can get the shirts off our very own backs. All of that and so much more over at patreon.com/yourpopfilter. While you're on the internet, you should check out Shady Monk. He does all the tunes you've been listening to. He's on Bandcamp, he's on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever kids get their music these days that I'm too old to know. Shady Monk lives there. You can probably follow him on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's Shady Monk. Wherever you get music, check him out. Taste Buds, from time to time, we like to take a look back at a star's career.
Not me.
What did it mean to them? What did it mean to us? And most specifically, what did it mean to Pop Filter as an entity?
Nope.
Tonight, nope.
Not me.
You're not doing that?
I don't like this part. No, I do it under protest.
All right. I like people who are enthusiastic, or at least quiet.
Oh my God.
So, tonight...
All of Mike's hosting and scoring revolves around who is my friend. If you ever are like sort of not my friend, the other person will get a point.
It's very Trumpian.
Yes.
If you say nice things about him.
It's to win best friend. But they have to be real. I can sense falseness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
You're very perceptive in that way.
Yeah, let's say you could do that.
Right. Damn it. Neither of you deserved a point there. I'm not taking it down. I get the points.
just sort of randomly stabbing at the board.
Nope, that was purposeful. Tonight we'll be looking at George Clooney's career, and I guess Greg doesn't care, so let's just fucking get through this as fast as possible. You will be building a Rushmore to his. We're taking out all of the TV roles, and there is a lot.
Really?
This boy
Roseanne?
worked for you. Roseanne? We're a movie of the year, not Clooney of the year.
That's true.
Okay? The board stated long ago that we only talk about movies and never a thing else, unless he had a George Clooney show.
What was he, Dr. Green?
It's ER. ER is the first one. So
It could have been Chicago Hope. We don't know.
1987 to 1996, it's I'm Not Just a TV Star, which includes Clooney playing Oliver in Return to Horror High, Matt Stevens in Return of the Killer Tomatoes, Mac in Unbecoming Age, From Dusk Till Dawn he was Seth Gecko, ER he was Doctor, and One Fine Day, Jack Taylor.
Okay.
I thought Peacemaker was his big thing, but no, From Dusk Till Dawn was his first big thing.
Dusk Till Dawn, yeah, dude, that's
Dusk
the
Till
one.
Dawn was an important movie to me. Quentin Tarantino is not directing a movie, but is instead starring in a movie. This must be good.
I have to say, that movie obviously is not good, and I don't like it. There's a couple scenes that I find interesting, but the final shot of the way that, like, the back of the establishment is
the
like,
Machu Picchu of it.
Dude, that was really good, and it made a big impression on little Greg, and so I dubbed this movie good.
Also, yeah.
And I think it's great in, like, how Grindhouse movies can be fun and great.
Yeah, it's very proud of the fact that it's a Grindhouse movie, definitely.
And then the other one was One Fine Day, where he was with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Mm-hmm.
This
Of
was
course
also
it was a good day then.
Yeah, that's the best day.
Anyone would have a good day if they were with Michelle Pfeiffer.
This was part of the whole. First of all, Julius Caesar haircut, which is weird, and then also the only tilting the head. I'm George Clooney. I act like this. Now I act like this, and now my head's tilted this way, and I act like this. I'm not sure he was that good back then.
He wasn't, which is surprising how many, like, campy, like, From Dusk Till Dawn is the most well-known and quality, but he was in, I did not think of him as, like, this campy art movie,
Attack
stupid
of the
kind
Killer
of actor.
Tomatoes?
Yeah.
Oh, no, he was
Return.
He was in 3 movies that started with the word return.
Yeah, he returned to a lot of places back then. So
Also, you know what was
I'm
fucking
hearing-
badass? You know what is the most handsome thing on a handsome guy? He had that fucking tattoo crawling out of his shirt.
Neck tattoo.
From Dusk Till
Watch
Dawn,
out.
yeah. And Rusty Ryan,
Tarantino
Brad
definitely
Pitt on
brothers.
Ocean's 11 had it crawling out of his sleeve.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think the neck one's even better. I say fuck all of these movies. This is not the George Clooney that I have grown to
No,
love.
none of these should be on the...
not even From Dusk Till Dawn, not even ER,
I mean, we can... well, ER is not a
We
fucking
can't
movie,
do
idiot.
ER, Mike. Stop teasing us.
but the Ben Stiller show was on the original version of the Ben
Yeah,
Stiller.
That's because you're a bad host. I would put... I would put From Dusk Till Dawn on for right now. That's possible. Because of the neck tattoo,
Yeah.
though.
Just because of the neck tattoo.
Let's put it
Okay,
up
so
there.
Seth Gecko's
You know what, we'll put it
on
up there.
for now.
Only if we can, at the end of the segment, reveal that the Mount Rushmore is actually, like, the very top of a cool, like, pyramid.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Of course it is.
From 1997 to 1999, we're calling it Get Ready for Action. Batman and Robin, he plays Batman. The Peacemaker, he plays the Peacemaker. Out of Sight, he plays Jack. Out of Sight, Foley. The Thin Red Line, Captain Bosch. And Three Kings, Archie Gates.
All right, so Out of Sight and Three Kings are 2 of the best movies ever made. Out of Sight
Yeah.
is where Soderbergh realized that he could do... Well, I think The Limey might be where Soderbergh realized he could do cool, but then Out of Sight is where he perfected it. And that's how we got Ocean's 11. Out of Sight absolutely has to be on here. It's in my top 1 movies of all time.
And it would be crazy
But-
not to have it be on here on the show about Ocean's 11 because it feels like we don't, like you said, we don't have an Ocean's 11 if we don't
Right.
have Out of Sight.
There is no way.
It would be out of
That
mind.
very famous movie everybody knows and talks about George Clooney in all the time. Sure.
Do you disagree?
But you both voted.
Do you
Mike, are
disagree
you
with
showing
that
your whole
contention,
ass right
Mike?
now?
Yeah, dude.
I might be showing.
Yeah,
at
get
least
those
half
buns
my
out.
ass.
Just smack them.
So Out of Sight, Jack Foley can go up there. Who am I to fight against you guys?
I am a motivational speaker.
It's the first and only movie where we watched Jennifer Lopez fall in love with a fucking nerd, and we were like, yeah, okay, no, that's
We
right.
could get J-Lo.
Yeah.
and no love for the Three Kings.
Oh, no, I love Three Kings.
Three Kings is dope. They're stealing that gold, right, Ryan? If I'm not mistaken.
Those Three Kings be stealing your gold. It's George Clooney, Ice Cube,
Trump
Mark-
supporter Ice Cube.
Mark Wahlberg, and Spike Jonze. Those are the 4 kings.
Trump supporter Mark Wahlberg.
Is that true? That's probably true.
But you know it's true.
They both would have stopped 9/11.
The guy who said he'd stop 9/11, only a Trump supporter would say that.
This is nearly a perfect movie, but it's directed by David O. Russell, our host's least favorite director.
But I'm all about iconic. I'm not going to put my thumb on the scale in that way.
I think
that's fine.
I think his character from Three Kings should be on here then. For right now.
Okay, so right now we have 3 on Cloonster's Mountain.
What's Three Kings' name?
Archie Gates.
Archie Gates.
And then should we give a minute or so to Batman, guys?
He almost killed it.
Nipples. He was a great Bruce Wayne, I think. I would like to see him get another shot as old Bruce Wayne.
Ooh, in like the Dark Knight Returns or something.
Old Bruce
But,
Wayne.
like, he can't be
what he used to be.
He can't be growly. Like, he's not like, I'm so angry. He'd be like, hey, I am also a billionaire, so life's kind of fun.
I don't think he has that. Like, there's been movies like what's it called? Good Night and Good Luck, where like he tries to be growly and he just can't. He's still just Danny Ocean. He's still like,
what if as Batman?
He knows how good. If your face looks like that, life is just good, no matter what situation you're in.
What if as Batman you couldn't do the growly voice, so you had to find some other way to hide your voice, so you just did like really goofy voice? I'm the Knight.
Or
watch out, it's Batman. Here I come.
He tries to talk to the Batman family, and then Robin's like, "Were you practicing that? Oh, did you have a lot of practice for that?"
The Batman doesn't have family.
2000. I just have 18 wardens.
Yeah.
2 side wardens. 2000 to 2002. Movie stars have fun too. Oh brother, where art thou? The Perfect Storm. Spy Kids. Ocean's 11. Welcome to Collinwood. Solaris and Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Okay, so that last one he directed,
and I guess it's a minor role.
But the one, like the big one here is Oh Brother, right?
Yeah.
Perfect
He's a
Storm.
man of constant sorrow.
Well, Ocean's 11. I'd say
yeah,
it's also a pretty
Danny
big one
Ocean.
in there.
It might be important to right now.
Is
But
Danny
there's
Ocean?
10 other people in that movie. Oh, brother, where art thou? It's just him and his brother.
But like, what do you guys think, George Clooney? Do you think Danny Ocean, or do you think Oswald brother? Where art thou?
It's Everett. Yeah, I think of Everett. I mean, that's an oft quoted around here, and I think of his dumb face, like getting out of the mud, just like.
Remember how dumb his face was?
Still looking handsome.
I will take off anybody on this list to put Danny Ocean on. I really do think that is the purest form of George Clooney. Like you made it like how we made like what do you call it? Like cold coffee, cold drip,
cold brew,
cold brew. It's just the perfect form of George Clooney.
Do we still have Dusk Dawn on there?
Yeah, we do.
Kick that, man. Get rid of that. Danny Ocean's gonna sit in that seat. Get out of here.
So should I do
and you
Danny
put Everett on there
Everett?
as well? Yeah.
It's both.
Because what's so great about Everett is even looking at his career, he's always played goofy, but his reputation and how he looks, I think mostly, is such that you always forget he can play goofy very well. And Everett shoved it down everybody's throat.
Well, I think a lot of people have played goofy. I mean, not one person can ski down a hill like that and go.
Right. All right. From 2003 to 2007, we're calling it I Do What I Want to Do. Spy Kids 3D Game Over.
What is
Intolerable Cruelty?
Game over, man.
Ocean's 12. He was not in Spy Kids 2, which is shocking. Ocean's 12, Good Night and Good Luck, Syriana, Ocean's 13, and Michael Clayton.
Okay, so let's go through the first half real quick.
Spy Kids 3D Game Over. He plays Devlin, as we all know. Intolerable Cruelty, Ocean's 12.
So I think that Intolerable Cruelty that's a Coen Brothers movie, yes?
Yeah.
I think so.
And I think he's trying to like still play with stardom. But I think it's the back half of this era that Mike has declared where we see him get like to do some actual stuff. Like he won an Oscar, yes? Or at least was nominated for Syriana.
Mm-hmm. At least nominated.
And then what else came?
Good Night and Good Luck, which he was mostly directing,
Michael
but also
Clayton.
in Ocean's 13 and Michael Clayton.
And yeah, Michael Clayton is a movie that I think is like 5-star all-timer.
Really?
And like such a good play on like I think it's a great movie, and then also at the same time a good play on the whole George Clooney-ness of the world.
I don't know what it is. It's just about a dude named Michael Clayton. I couldn't tell you.
I vaguely remember it. It's about like a whistleblower, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
It's one of these movies that is very unsexy when you're watching a trailer and then extremely compelling when you're actually watching the movie itself.
it really is spectacular. I do think that because he does such a good job of like being himself and then also satirizing himself, which I think he tries to do in Ocean's 11, but really never comes off. He's just himself.
Himself.
Yeah. I would like to move Michael Clayton onto the list. Sirianna was like, "Oh, I'm going to gain weight and get an Oscar nomination." Straight up, like that's all.
I gain weight all the time. I've never gotten the nom for it, but like
that's bullshit, dude.
I was still telling the Oscars.
Yeah, dude, this is for a role.
Hey,
it's Oscars. A lot of roles, actually.
Okay.
Yay.
So right now, your what's his name? George Clooney, Mount Rushmore currently is, Ryan?
Well, we have 5 right now, so we're going to have to rectify. But your 5 right now is Jack
the Rick
Foley.
Moranis spot.
Yeah, Jack Foley is from Out of Sight. Archie Gates is from Three Kings. Danny Ocean is from Oceans 12 and 13. Everett is from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And Michael Clayton is from Up in the Air.
Up in the air.
I'm going to say we all can vote who we need to boo. I'm saying Out of Sight. Get Out of Sight.
What the Greg?
I think that's maybe like you were at a time in your life, Mike, where that was not a big movie for you, but that seems like a really big movie. I would lose Michael, but see, I would lose Michael Clayton, Ryan. So who would you lose? Because I've never even seen Michael Clayton, so I got to be true to myself here.
I have to be untrue to myself as much as I love Three Kings. I think I have to lose Archie Gates. I think
that's a good one, actually. Yeah.
What Archie Gates brings, we have in these 4 other roles.
I think the name Archie Gates is amazing.
I think that Everett, or like, I think that the weakest movie is honestly Oh Brother, as much as I love the Coen brothers, but
that role is more iconic, though.
Yeah, like that, like showing his fucking goofy-eyed cartoon side was very important.
Okay, we will return later in the show to finish George Clooney's career retrospective. Before that, more Ocean's 11.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening so far. And let me just tell you that everything ahead of this commercial is much better than what came before it. That's my guarantee. While I have you here, let me tell you about a website. It's called yourpopfilter.com. And it's everything you need that's related to Pop Filter. Everything Mike, everything Ryan, everything Greg, everything Cassie, everything is there at yourpopfilter.com. While you're there, go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. Make that your new Amazon bookmark and do your shopping from there. That way, we get a little piece of the action and Amazon doesn't. Make sure you're also listening to everything that Pop Filter has to offer, which includes the Superhero Show, a podcast that covers every single TV show that's based on a comic book or comic book property, and Movie of the Year, where we sit down and try and figure out what is the single greatest movie of any given year. That's Superhero Show. That's Movie of the Year. And that's yourpopfilter.com. Rate, subscribe, review. Bye.
Taste buds. In making Tess the real ultimate score, is Soderbergh getting caught up in Hollywood's obsession with suave, self-obsessed masculinity, or is he commenting on it?
I think, as much as I love this movie, I think that he is definitely getting caught up. But I do have to say that, like, this was watching it this week a couple of times was the time where it offended me the least, because I really do think that he's trying to make a timeless commentary on Hollywood movies, and this is just how movies work. And so I think that he is probably showing his whole ass, every single inch of it.
Right.
But
cheeks baking in the sun.
He's saying, "Look, guys, the movies that raised me, like how old Hollywood used to work, is girls they run for the Clooneys and they run away from the Garcias."
I have to say,
I mean, I get what you're saying, but that's also fucking horse shit to be making a movie in modern times and having that be your excuse.
It's not modern times; it's 20 years ago, and I think that's a significant amount of time.
It's very clearly like that the bad guy wants to possess her but doesn't appreciate her, and the good guy is going to appreciate her. I think the saving grace
while possessing her.
Yeah, but also he's going to also possess her because she is the score. But I think that ultimately what saves it probably is fucking Julia Roberts comes in and just delivers a really three-dimensional, grounded, realistic performance in this absolute man cave of a movie. She stands there and does actually deliver, and I think saves the thing from going right off the cliff, but I don't know by how much.
There's a couple of scenes that we should get to, but the scene that I don't think gets enough attention is her walk out of the casino. Like, in a movie that has really carefully planned plot points, where like it's revealing exactly what it wants to at all times. The one where they're like, "Hey, Julia, turn the TV on right now because your boyfriend's about to fucking be a real dickbag right in front of you." That's one of the weaker ones. But
Yeah.
I think that Julia Roberts, this person who we think of as mostly a star and not an actress, even though 1 year before this, she won an Academy Award for Best Actress in a Steven Soderbergh movie. Hello.
Yep.
Walks out of the casino and with her face really tries to sell this entire arc that she is going through.
She shows her whole face.
She shows her entire face.
Her to Garcia, the first half of that scene works perfect. I think she elevates the 4 scenes she's allowed to be in.
Yeah.
I think she really elevates that role in a way other people wouldn't. And even saying, "Yeah, fuck you, Benedict." And then going back to Danny for no reason other than here's the part of the movie where I would go back to Danny, but he didn't show he's different. He didn't actually change. Feels like the hackiest hack that's ever happened.
The world is designed to have him win. I mean, he is like literally the world of this movie is designed for him to achieve what he wants. So that's like I think supposed to be the only thing that.
But it's supposed
really
to glom on to people like that or us and say like, no, the people who are winning are the Andy Garcias. I bet you can get them. And then it drops.
People who own things but don't appreciate them.
Right. And so it's like, it's little things like Danny Ocean always wearing the ring and then Tess noticing that Danny is wearing the ring still. It's Danny knowing more about art. Not a lot of more about art, but a little bit more about art than Benedict does, who's just like, I like it because you like it. Like the guy.
Because it makes you happy.
The guy only thinks in brown, right? Like every food he eats, every like art he looks at, he's like, this is art. This is food. I'm eating food. I'm swallowing
Here's how
food.
wealthy this makes me look to have.
That's just like, that's not for
But
Tess.
Danny's not better for Tess. Like, he never actually apologized for lying. He had a very clever, great line of, "I only lied about being a thief." Great movie line. But I don't think that their relationship towards the end is earned. It's just like Tess needs a dude no matter what. It's got to be one of these 2 shitty rich dudes.
And like, and it needs to be more excited, right? Like, that's the thing is that like, forego stability for being excited.
What's fucked up though is like, why can't she be one of the Ocean's 11? Like, Julia Roberts is a great actress. It's a cool enough character, but just even the fact that she is like apart from all of that and is like part of the score and not part of the crew, like says everything. There's 11 dudes and one woman like hardly gets to say anything in the movie the entire time.
Well, she's one of the Ocean's 12 for whatever that does for you, and that she only had 2 weeks to film this movie, so maybe that changed things. But yeah, I mean, the guys in the movie call her the prize.
Yeah,
they literally.
Matt Damon says this is the best part of my day before he knows Danny's involved with her.
Right,
and it's funny because Julia Roberts obviously is beautiful, but for like he's surrounded in Vegas for like she looks fine, but for him to be like it's this right here, it's like Linus, come on, man.
Okay, Julia Roberts according to your stance on this is Julia Roberts quote looks fine.
Now I don't know who's worse, Ocean's 11 or Mike the podcast host. Just being like,
I'm just saying Linus needs more world experience.
Sure. But yeah, I think that we're supposed to take let's get to the main point, right? The reason that we're supposed to buy the walk outside of the casino is because of that one conversation in the diner, it's not a diner, it's a fine restaurant.
What I find so cute, no matter whether it's like a Denny's or like a Morton's.
This is a Michelin-starred diner.
It's a $4 sign diner, but I will say there is no movie, and we have watched Spirited Away. We have watched Mulholland Drive. We're going to watch Donnie Darko, the single greatest movie that a percentage of the population in America has ever seen. There is no better written scene than Danny and Tess at that table, and that is supposed to do so much of the selling. And I don't know if it sells Tess's.
It does achieve that. It does do a lot.
I don't know if
think
it sells
their
Tess's
history and why they broke up.
Yeah, exactly. It does all there's no flashbacks necessary, right? We get it all.
No, but
I don't know if it achieves like Tess's face change with her walk out of the casino and she's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm with Danny. I don't care that he's getting arrested. But right now, we're watching the most movie-ass movie we have ever watched. Like, this is a perfect scene.
Yeah, it has a line that should be the "You had me at hello." Who's coming like dumb bullshit, but because it's these two selling it. Does he make you laugh? He never made me cry. So Hollywood and cheesy, but perfect here. I have no problem with that. I just think for as zip zap zop this movie is, they could have had to slow down. Danny actually thinks about being a human being for 2-minute scene.
Out of Sight has the scene, but does do the slowdown that you're talking about. Unfortunately, you don't watch movies, Mike. So
there was, and I will say there is the space inside this film to do it. The movie is nearly 2 hours long, and it makes some interesting choices on the back end about how it spends its time. I think there's enough time in there to like have more reflecting and more development of like his understanding of what his relationship to Tess means.
Because like so many directors get pinged on certain things, like Tim Burton doesn't like people of color because it's not part of his quote-unquote super baby white aesthetic. Does Soderbergh often have a problem with women? Or do you think that goes away? Or maybe it's just this movie?
As far as I know, all of the movies that I've watched, he has so many female leading characters.
Yeah, I mean, if this is just on the heels of Aaron Brockovich, like that's a pretty good female character, right?
And this will give way to Haywire and Side Effects, and I think Magic Mike
Haywire's dope.
Is basically a female-led movie. Like, as much as there's like naked dudes dancing around. No, I think this is a one-off for sure. I want to go to the other part though, Mike. Is this commenting on masculinity?
Mm-hmm.
Is this like making us feel good or bad about it? And I do ultimately think that this is where we want to be. If we're like a super loser watching this movie in our basement, this is where we want to be. And then unfortunately we will do bad things because of it, you know? Like, we want all of the things to land like it does for the people in this movie, but it won't. And the movie makes it look so cool that we want it so bad.
And you don't really see the work they put in, so it's like, I just wish I was that cool and masculine. But they are working their asses off, at least Rusty and Danny, and I'd say Linus. But like,
they
I think
recreated the entire fucking
right. If you're that basement dweller who's like, I'm going to be like that, at tops, you're going to be one of the fucking brothers who just are there. Their skill set is to be as annoying as possible.
See, there is this force that exists in the universe of this movie. And here's what I think makes me feel uncomfortable about it. There's a force that protects everything they do, even though they engage in a lot of risky behavior. And it feels like within the movie, that's standing in for like white privilege, which really does kind of act as a force that keeps like white men from ever having to deal with the repercussions of their actions. There's so many times where things just kind of work out for them. And the movie requires that for it to be cool and fun. Because there's several times where someone should just fucking die because in real life, that's what would probably happen as a like side effect of these actions.
Or, so I mean, like, it's a lot. It could be a lot smaller than that. Like, I thought that Bruiser was going to come in and beat the shit out of me, quote unquote. But instead, they found a different thug to come in and beat the shit out of me. And now the whole thing is off.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how straight white males think that their lives should go. But I don't want to put that on Soderbergh. Like, Soderbergh was like, I want to put up 2 hours of cotton candy for you. And I hope that the straight white males who do happen to watch this aren't like, this isn't my life and I'm angry and I'm going to buy a gun.
Right. And I would say, like, for this, I was at 2000, it is a pretty diverse movie for 2001, where everything else is white on white on white on white. This has 3 characters of color.
It features a woman. I think I saw a gay person in the background of one of the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it's as inclusive as Star Wars is. It's a blink and you miss it.
Is that the bar?
Well, after the movie came out...
the bar is so much higher than that.
After the movie came out, Soderbergh announced that Danny Ocean is bi. It's not covered in the movie, but he wanted everyone to know that. I think
you can tell by the way him and Rusty look at each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes. The 3 of them, the 2 of them in Test for sure.
I also read that Elliot Gould was gay. Did you guys see that?
I don't know.
Did you guys hear this?
People are saying, everybody's saying.
His character, was there anything gay about that guy? I don't think there's any homosexuality in the movie, as opposed besides the obvious homosexuality between the entire team. Like I had read that Elliot Gould was clearly out, but I did not see that.
No, I didn't pick up on that. He just seems like an old rich dude.
A sort of languid fabulousness, but yeah, it felt coded more as like decadent rich person than
luxurious.
Maybe there could be, Ryan, like they could have used old school like coding, because Hollywood had coding from
like back when the original Ocean's 11 came out. This is how they would say this is a
because I mean it can be
permanent
really
bachelor.
Yeah, it can be really simple stuff, but if you know the language of it, then it's really obvious. So maybe it's that.
Well, we'll never know.
Well,
let's take a quick break and get back to George Clooney's career.
Very sad, and perhaps now you have something to think about. Or very problematic, and perhaps we have something to think about. But in any event, I'm sure you have some reaction to what you're listening to. So why not check us out on the social media? You can go to Instagram or Twitter and find us at YourPopFilter. Email contacts@YourPopFilter. Hey, everybody. Keep watching them movies.
All right, taste buds. We're back here at George Clooney's career retrospective.
Can I say right now, I'm going to put $5 on the line. I will Venmo each of you $5.
$5 are on Ryan's line. We don't get to find out why yet. 2008 to 2009. Oh, did you have more?
I think we might be done. I don't think that he can achieve these like Clooney perfecting heights that he did in this first half.
I tend to agree with that. I think we might be through a lot of the heavy hitters.
Well, we'll see when we talk from 2008 to 2009, an era I'm calling Clooney's Still Fun. When he did Leatherheads, Burn After Reading, Up in the Air, The Men Who Stare at Goats, and Fantastic Mr. Fox.
All right. Up in the Air, I think, is a great movie.
I love Up in the Air.
But I think that's mostly Anna Kendrick's show.
Yes.
And I think that this is Clooney doing a couple of tunes that we've already seen before, if you look at the Rushmore.
George Clooney.
Is he just doing a couple of George Toonies that we've already seen?
For me, it's the iconic factor. It's not the quality of the roles. It's that they just maybe Up in the Air, but I don't know. I don't feel like any of these are as iconic as this.
And yeah, I'm going to fucking say this shit. When we watch later Bogart, we're not like, ooh. We're just like, oh, Casablanca. Oh, Maltese Falcon. Oh, Treasure of Sierra Madre. I think that's where we're at right now.
And does that have to do with if you're around long enough, people only know you from your early stuff, or you're not pushing and trying?
I mean, yeah, far be it for me to like insult the Cloons, but yeah, like Up in the Air there's no IP, like it's not based on a comic book. He just sold it on himself, and so if you're gonna do that, you just have to be George Clooney, and you have to rely on a new face to do all the good, like the heavy lifting, and he did.
Yeah, it's a good like torch passing movie, even if in reality he did not pass the Clooney type roles to Anna Kendrick.
And do you remember that scene where he had a bunch of cups in front of him and he turned them over and he was like, "Oh, you should put cups together. You should stack cups in a musical way, to make a little song."
I'm going the long way down.
What was the last movie, Mike?
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I do love that movie, but
that is a fun movie.
That's not George Clooney's movie.
Yeah, like
it's the Fox's movie.
Well, it's like. His is like a voice that you're like, oh, hey, is that George Clooney?
Yeah. That's as much as you think about it.
Yeah, he's not the centerpiece of the whole thing.
I do want you guys to remember all the eras we've done and how like this one was just 2 years. So how many things are fit into a small amount of time? This next and final era is 2010 to 2020. And it's an era we're calling I fucking love Nespresso.
Yeah, dude.
Because it's hard to pick out
or a
real
limoncello.
Movies with the amount of Nespresso shorts this dude has made. It's crazy.
We have to say, though, that he does it so that he can sponsor a satellite that keeps its eye on what's going on in the Sudan or in Sudan. So that's the most bonkers like story of all time.
Which means he's Superman and Batman and probably Green Lantern all at the same time.
He's got a satellite up there.
Cool dude.
Just so you know, Mike, before you go through this last realm, we have Out of Sight, we have Ocean's 11, we have Oh Brother, and we have Michael Clayton.
As far as George Clooney is concerned, nothing's out of sight anymore because of the power of Nespresso.
That's a good one, Greg. And nor is anything out of Michael Clayton.
That's also one. That's also one.
2010 to 2020, we have The American, The Ides of March, The Monuments Men, Gravity, Tomorrowland, Hail Caesar, and Money Monster.
Wow. Okay. So this is a whole lot of cashing in on the name George Clooney.
Yeah, especially Gravity.
The one I like, though, is Gravity because he comes in, he's on a little chair, he's like, yo, what up? I'm George Clooney. And then he bounces, and I like that. And then Ides of March is actually a good movie because he really is playing off the George Clooney lore that he has created, which apparently that's what I'm into. He's like, if you see me jerking off to a child, you disregard it because I'm goddamn George Clooney. Like, there's that whole thing of, like, he's so suave that he can just talk you into anything.
I gotta say, if I see him doing what you described, I'm gonna say something because I'm not gonna be part of this liberal cabal anymore.
That feels like a definite see something, say something.
Yeah, that
situation. That's
even if it's George Clooney, I think you gotta say something.
But whatever, Ryan, you can.
But you continue your silence by all means. Don't. Yeah,
I'm
just
glad
let this man use his satellite to do terrible, deviant things.
I'm glad this is the first time that Mike didn't say the word Spy Kids. That was nice.
I don't remember him from the Spy Kids franchise, but he's in several of them.
Which kid is he? The little boy?
Yeah, he's Devlin, the little boy. And that's when I think he can really stretch as an actor.
His name is Espresso Limoncello, and he will fuck the bad guys up. I think the other thing, too, is that he is capitalizing on his fame, not just like in a let's play it way, but also in like a I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
What is money like? Let's give me a lot of money because he cleared this bar, right? He has proven that he is capable of this. Move on.
Gravity is a really dope movie, but his part in it is basically what if the actual George Clooney was an astronaut. And he just hangs out and is George Clooney. Like you said, right, that he just floats away. And you think he comes back for a second, but it's not really him.
Yeah, if you talk to anybody about Sandra Bullock's age, they're like, no. Multiple times I've imagined George Clooney in a floating chair coming towards me as if he was MODOK and talking to me, and then he disappears.
He talks me through my troubles.
And the Monuments Men, somebody basically said, probably Tom Hanks. What if Ocean's 11 happened in World War II?
The Monuments Men should have been a fucking hit. Like, it was Ocean's 11. It was an all-star cast, right? Like, Bill Murray was there, and it's all these guys going to steal paintings, and apparently it was terrible.
It should be Saving Private Ryan meets Ocean's 11.
That's the pitch, but nobody wrote it to that level of quality. They never got past the pitch. So, yeah, we have it. What is you said it, I think, not 2 minutes ago, right?
We're the Monument Men now, dog.
Mike, do you know of the future? Like, do you know what, like, his plans are?
Do you know of the future? Mike,
I know.
Mike, do you know of the future?
Tell of the future.
Okay.
He has one movie in the can.
It's crazy I have to say this, but I'm talking about George Clooney's future projects. Not actually predicting the future of the country.
Okay. That's different.
I know he has a film in the can.
Can I just... I want to do one segment without a bunch of fucking silly billies, and apparently that's not going to happen.
I've answered your question several times now. I don't know what else to do.
I'm sorry, what?
I know he has a film in the can.
In his butt?
That's in... Okay. Read out the fucking...
Your
Mount
George Clooney, Mount Rushmore, is Jack Foley from Out of Sight, Danny Ocean from the Oceans trilogy, Everett from Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and Michael Clayton from Michael Clayton. Guys, I think that this is inarguable.
Yeah, we did it. That's perfect. Good job, us. Another great podcast. If you have
a problem with it, let us know. Interact with us, chuds.
I dare you to. We would.
What's your goddamn George Clooney Mount Rushmore?
We would totally be fine if you emailed us and not freak out at all.
We'll be real cool about it. All right, that is George Clooney's career. When we come back, one final segment talking about Ocean's 11. Taste buds. With Damon's character being the son of an old accomplice referenced numerous times, the film itself being a remake, and the feel of one last score for so many of these characters, what does the movie have to say about legacy?
The movie does treat its older people, which would be Carl Reiner and a little bit Elliot Gould, in a different way. And then, even though Matt Damon looks exactly as old as every other person in the movie, I guess except for the Mormon twins, I think that they're sort of thinking that Matt Damon is going to become Danny Ocean at some point, which is something that I never noticed until recently. Of like, Matt Damon really does have the grow up arc throughout the course of this movie. This is sort of like his
he's
going
so
from
nervous
baby to adolescent to teenager to adult.
By the time they're outside that vault, he's like so much like a cool, calm, collected member of the team versus how nervous and like awkward he was at first.
His name's Linus. You're not going to go through life suave with a name like Linus.
There's no reason to have them go to get that pinch from San Bernardino or whatever it is. Like, there's no reason. Like, just don't have that in the script. Just have the first pinch work. But the reason that pinch exists is because it shows him at the kid table, right, with the Mormon twins, and being like, "Oh my God, this is terrible." And I agree. I feel like that if I had to listen to Scott Conn and Casey Affleck talk for a while, that it would be terrible. And then he decides to get out, and then he gets screamed at. He gets yelled at by the adults, and this is all just part of like the puberty phase of Linus's arc throughout the movie.
Well, yeah, because there's everybody has a responsibility. He kind of didn't need to come on this road trip at all, except maybe he just drives sometimes. He gets the gymnast hurt. Like, he fucks a lot of stuff up there.
Isn't there also a third score in this movie? There's the money score, there's Tess as the score, but talking about legacy, isn't that the third score? There's no good story about a Vegas heist before this. It's all smash and grabs, people gunned down outside the casino. This was like a move to do something that was like a work of art in the heist world, and it was like supposed to leave that sort of like imprint on
they sort of say it in that way of like we have a Caldwell, Bobby Caldwell. He's too old.
Well, it's from the minute you meet him that he's somebody special, because the get the band together is very like bing bang boom. It's fast, and then the camera and the music slows down.
We're gonna change the frame rate of the camera.
Yeah. And it's like this weird, like, look at this guy. Like, they are so, it feels like
in a world.
This was his first movie, introducing Matt Damon. Like, but he'd been around for years. But the movie definitely has that vibe.
And I don't know how cool Matt Damon's ever been. Like, this is basically the Matt Damon that we've seen in every other movie. But he's definitely not George Clooney, Brad Pitt cool. And that's why I guess it's good casting, because he's just always the nerd. Like, Matt Damon is sort of always the Linus in whatever room he's in. And so he's just in the back of the room saying like, what? No. I think that helps.
I think the character is important because it establishes that this is not just a group of guys, that it is a family, that he has a legacy that he gets, that their crime kind of is something that gets handed down from generation to generation. And it's always good to have the one character who is new to it, because the audience is also new to it, and then you see the world through those eyes, and you get sort of then, as he is brought into that family, the audience is brought into that family as well, and it's our caring about these heisters that really makes the thing work.
And I think that, like, with generation things like this, we're supposed to think, like, oh, the next generation is fucked, because there's no way that Linus Caldwell can take over. But by the end of the movie, when George Clooney is like, well, I trust you now, that means that maybe Ocean's 14 should be Caldwell's 14, and he can be in charge, and he can bring, like, now he's going to bring up his new group of things, and it's okay for...
He still has the idiot brothers.
It's okay, yeah, because they will never age, but Clooney and Brad Pitt can go fucking away.
Well, they can be Saul and Elliot Gould.
Yeah.
Man, you spend the whole movie just waiting for Carl Reiner to just fucking die and make everything not work, and then it seems like he does, but actually... he saves the day. Hopefully, by the time this podcast comes out, our seniors will have done the same thing.
I know that...
Is that cheap?
I know that we're supposed to think that, like, he's about to die, and that's sort of part of the story, right? Because, like, he passes out, but that, like, that's part of the heist and whatnot. But given all of that it was all fakery, I do not drop him down the tunnel to steal the money at the end of the movie.
No,
at some point he lifts his
looks
helmet.
like he's about to have a real heart attack.
That was for real. He lifts his mask up, and that's fucking actual Carl Reiner that they dropped down the tube.
The rest were stuntmen, but they're like, nope, send Carl down. But yeah, he also had the moment in the hotel room where Rusty goes in there. And he's looking like, and that's what the lead up to make the viewers. But I know this movie's all about cons, and so it's like, but we're really conning the audience. But just not showing us parts of the plan, I wasn't like, oh, you clever bastards. I was like, oh, okay,
Well,
that was part of the plan too.
I think that maybe this is for the last segment when we were talking about masculinity, but I think this is a big part of it is that Carl Reiner refuses. Like George Clooney, when Carl Reiner's getting dressed to be Zerga, like the whatever, he's like, "Are you sure that you're okay with this?" And he's like, "If you ever ask me that again, it will be the last question you ever ask."
Yeah,
but he's not okay with it. And that's the thing that the movie is saying about masculinity, but never has the time for, is that we will throw all of these people to their deaths as long as they don't think we're slightly a wuss.
But wouldn't that point be made better if it wasn't part of the plan for him to have a heart attack?
Yeah, it's just not on the movie's mind. I think the movie really does whatever it can to not have anything on its mind.
Yeah. Like exactly. Yeah, like they specifically don't want to do that because this type of behavior should result in like 3 or 4 of these people dying and all of them getting into huge trouble. But that would
at the least.
But that would like
least.
And obviously, there's not a single person who doesn't think that would ruin this movie if that happened. But that's the force that pushes against every part of this movie is just they are so obviously being protected by basically Steven Soderbergh, who's standing there like swatting away any potential like anything that could potentially get his characters. He's like, no, get out of here.
But the way that it works around it is that there's no. Mike, I'm going to speak to you specifically because you're in charge of points. There's no Wolverine and Colossus fighting together or separately. There's only fastball specials. And that's how the legacy works, is that you work together, you pick up Wolverine, if you're Colossus, you throw it right at the problem. Right. And then once you age out of that, you teach somebody else how to do one of your parts. And I think that's why there's so many generations in this movie. Like, not just Linus and Carl Reiner, but like maybe the Mormon brothers could move up to be the Linus and the Rusty. I would not recommend that, but I definitely think
they'll probably be tops. They'll be the Stacy Boss and Basher. They're certainly not Rusty.
The Stacy Boss. So this is an iZombie reference in the middle of the Ocean's 11 talk.
I can't remember his character's name because he's just the computer guy.
I love it. But yeah, no, no one does anything without the help of anybody else, and I think that's ultimately, as lame as it sounds, the point of the movie.
Are you saying it's about family?
It's about all.
So maybe another beloved.
I think this is the first and only franchise about family.
And heists. This is the only heist family franchise. Oh.
Speed round.
Shit. It's time for speed round. Is this movie actually cool, or does it just act like it is?
I feel like at the beginning of the movie, before it has earned its coolness, it assumes that it has done it. It definitely picks it up halfway through, but there's a lot of early scenes in this movie where they're like, "You're just so lucky to be watching this." I think it assumes it before it earns it.
I think that the movie is actually cool and still is cool to this day because it hangs back. It's behind the beat. You know, like so many things that try to be cool are ahead of the beat in the soundtrack. They're like, oh, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there first. And this one just lays back. And I do think this is because of the Clones. Like, he just has this natural layback thing. But because it's always behind the beat, it's always a little slower than you would think or want. I think it actually is cool. And I think that's all Soderbergh doing.
Clarify?
Just like an extra minute in this scene, an extra second on this shot, just like an extra beat before the joke gets the punchline. I think that keeps it cool instead of trying so hard. I think that the actors in the beginning, the poker game, which I wanted to talk about way more.
Oh my gosh.
We'll get
what
there.
A painful scene.
The actors in the poker game, they're like, we are cool and we're trying. And that's like, that scene is in there in part to show like, that's actually not cool. Like going slower is cool.
Can one overuse montages and voiceover?
Not according to this movie, no. This movie, like, I think Soderbergh is the absolute master.
I think that once you have... I think there's a way to look at those devices as kind of movie cheats in a little bit of a way. Once you have decided to use them, I don't think you can use them too much. You're the type of movie that has montage, so go for it. You're the type of movie that has voiceover, go for it. Like,
hey, everyone, we're doing this. Yeah, absolutely. There's one scene that where... instead of montaging, they just spin the camera as fast as they can. So it's like, I think it's Matt Damon and Andy Garcia walking in, and then they just spin the camera. And now it's George Clooney gambling, and then they spin the camera, and it's Julia Roberts walking through the casino, that's essentially a montage, right? Like,
yeah.
Who gives a shit? We're just going to show what we want, and we don't give a shit.
Well, that's the genius of the montages in this film. It's not like it's the same kind of montage over and over again. It is the recruiting, getting the band back together is different than building and practicing the heist is different than that part. Like,
and sometimes you don't know it. Like, sometimes it's very stylistic. Like, the entire screen will wipe away, and you know that you're watching a movie and you're watching a montage. And sometimes it really dissolves into like a natural thing where like, oh, this doesn't count as a montage. But then at the end of the movie, you're like, oh, fuck, that was 16 or 17 montages.
How well does the much vaunted dialogue hold up 20 years later?
I do think when it's very conversational, when it's just two people going back and forth, like the one I would think of that is Matt Damon and George Clooney's outside the vault, and they're chatting about like, yeah, you got to have an extra battery, and you always got to be prepared for stuff like this. Oh, you don't hear Yen complaining. Like, those moments, I think are very well scripted.
Yeah, see, I would say the opposite. I think that Julia Roberts and George Clooney at the diner table is perfect because it's so scripted. But stuff that I used to get off on, but I don't anymore, is George Clooney being like, because the house always wins, and when you have a chance at the house, and then Brad Pitt interrupting and being like, "Did you work on that? Did you practice that?"
Yeah,
that feels fake. It's when they actually feel like old school 1940s Hollywood movies, like I would say Julia Roberts and George Clooney at the dinner table, and then also Matt Damon and Brad Pitt, where Brad Pitt is trying to train Matt Damon on how to like not lie, like how to be an actor. And that quick back and forth, I think that when it feels scripted, it doesn't, and when it feels unscripted, it does.
Define an Ella Fitzgerald versus a Bing Bong Boom.
Ryan, I would say that I would just want to get the Ella Fitz out of the room, is I think the main thing.
I think the Big Bang Boom's like, is kind of just like a temporary excitement, but the Ella Fitzgerald's sort of like a bigger, longer lasting, deeper excitement.
He's not the titular character, nor is he Brad Pitt, but is this Matt Damon's movie?
I do think so. I do think that he's got the arc.
Yeah, I mean, he's the new kid on the block. He's the one the audience gets connected to. He's the one who gets walked through all the stages of it, and you watch him be endearing in a growth way, like over a series of personality types, rather than just be fixed.
And I think, like, based on what I've read about the movie, I think it was really hard to focus on anybody else in the movie. Like, George and Brad were just like, hey, let's pull pranks on each other. Like, let's just give each other wedgies all the time.
I have heard that if you're holding a camera around either one of those guys, it's physically hard to not point it at them.
But I think that Damon was like, I'll hang out. I guess you can film me going through things. And that's how the movie worked out.
Like my purse.
Is the celebrity poker game the most important part of the movie?
Oh my God. Like, I think it does set up a reality. Like, this poker scene is so over the top awful that I think you then know what kind of world you're in. If they have to go that far to depict stupid Hollywood celebrities, that one of them is standing up and saying, I have all reds. Like, you can't exist in this world knowing that little about poker. And so the movie frames like, okay, guys, you are far away from reality. Don't worry. Like, you're going to be protected. This is how cartoonishly dumb we can pretend celebrities are.
There's a certain way that I started to look at this scene this week, and I don't think this is vindictive or awful. I just think this is the way it worked. I think that at some point Soderbergh was a little nervous about him not getting enough credit for Ocean's 11, and then it's just going to be this star-studded affair. And that's why it's here, where he sits down around all these actors, and they all act like dumb shits for the entire time, and he just sits there and tries to teach them about how movies work. I really think that this is
it's like he's saying, people, that they are basically just animals, right?
Yeah.
Like, they are, they comprehend so little of the world.
There is not that much difference between Holly Marie Combs and Don Cheadle, first of all. And although you're going to give them all the credit for being like attractive and stuff, this is me doing this. Like, I'm going to sit here at this table and I'm going to run this, and I'm going to put a glass full of ice to my head every time they make me upset. But this is like, come on, look at these people.
I love this reality where three men walk out of a nightclub. It's George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Topher Grace. And Topher Grace is the one fucking mobbed. Even if they're not famous, he would not be mobbed by them. Topher. What are the brothers' skill set other than being annoying?
They're cars. They're vehicles. That's so important for a crew. You got to have vehicles, man.
They're also... It's very important, like, that Brad Pitt has to wear a wig when he's a doctor at the end because everyone's going to know his face. But those boys, they have had 17 different jobs in that casino, and no one can... They need to have, like, forgetful faces.
Did they invent the buddy pal chief friend jackass escalation?
I think that this is the origin of that. And it's a great move to actually use them in the caper as extremely annoying, stupid assholes after establishing in the movie that they are among the stupidest, most annoying assholes you'd ever encounter. Really works because you watch them do it and you're like, yeah, everyone would pay attention to that because these guys are pricks.
There's a lot of improvisation between those two, and I don't like either of these actors, and I don't want to hear that shit, but there's one that gets me. There's one that fucking gets me every time. Casey Affleck is walking away from Scotty Conn, as everybody calls him, and he's
Scotty Conn. You heard of this guy?
Letting go of the balloons, and he's like, "I don't have any more time to deal with you two circus animals." And he made that up on the spot, and that fucking gets me every time.
What exactly makes Terry Benedict a villain? Is it because he owns casinos, or because he's dating Tess?
It's one line. It's one single line. Do you like this art? I like it because you like it. That's it. We're all out. We're all done after that.
He's so fake, and it's everything he has, he just acquires to acquire it, not because it means anything to him, or he knows, like, he doesn't even want to try to understand the art. You know, it's just like he doesn't feel like engaging with it, and that's so wrong.
What's with the weird black leather shirt things Matt Damon and George Clooney are wearing?
I think it's because they were going to do that wire work, and because in Mission Impossible, when he did it, he was wearing like a black top like that, but they never explain it, but that's clearly their like wire tops.
It's weird. Do they make this insanely complicated heist so no one could actually attempt it?
Yeah, sure. Ryan, yes.
Okay. Do you think there are any repercussions for just cutting power to a city like that?
Yeah, like I was wondering about that. It's like what actually would happen if a city just lost power for 30 seconds? Because like there's a hospital there, there's an airport right there, right? Like there's like a very famous airport that's right on the strip. It lost power for 30 seconds. What happened? It probably doesn't matter.
All the airplanes fell out of the sky.
They just crashed into the ground.
It was like Y2K all over.
They all crashed into New York. What I've heard is that they just put the camera in the same place, and then they just filmed it at night, and then filmed it in day, and then just like, put the things right next to each other. There was actually no turning off of Vegas.
Oh, okay. Well, that's different. That's different then. That's different then.
Does the success of Ocean's 11 predict or conceive of the MCU?
That's an interesting idea, but no.
I don't know, man. Like, I do think that there was a time where, like, we only accepted one type of movie, and this movie has the team building and the exact sense of humor, which is, like, not funny, but not funny. It's sort of like when Brad Pitt is telling Matt Damon how to be funny, but not funny enough that he'll remember you.
Yeah.
And that is sort of how the MCU works, is that I can sort of think of, like, what if there was 11 movies before Ocean's 11 came out? Like, this feels like the tone of like the perfect sort of blockbuster where if we put like a shield and webs and iron armor in these people's hands, it does sort of make sense to me. Like they all have this tone.
That's a lot of movies though. If you actually dress them up like the characters of the Avengers, I think would give you Avenger feels. Like even Hereditary.
The outfits are.
If it was Captain America and Tony Stark.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants?
Yeah, if like the traveling pants are like a shield and a Thor's hammer.
Speaking of the Avengers, does Don Cheadle get enough credit for doing the best English accent of all time?
This is in a movie we're gonna give an award soon of pound for pound best performance, and it was hard for me. I only knew who was last. I only knew that Don Cheadle was absolutely the worst.
How about I do an English accent? No, that's okay. No, how about I do it? No, that's all right. You don't have to do that.
Please don't. Please don't.
Is there a grab bag? They all had to have some sort of character peccadillo, and he got that one. He was like, fuck.
He didn't. There's no way. Like, I listened to the actors' commentary of the movie, and it was so clear that all of the actors were just themselves as characters in the movie while they were talking about the movie. Like, that was very clear. But Don Cheadle was like, I bet I'm not governor. I bet I could be a Ocean's 11 member like this.
I
G'day,
read
Mike.
that he flew to London and hung out with a bunch of people like in the part of town he thought Basher should be from and mimicked theirs, and his agent told him it was great. And so when he got made fun of after the movie came out, he fired her.
And, like, Don Cheadle is the best actor in this movie by far, right? Like, I mean, like, outside of this movie.
Like, chop for chop, yeah.
Terrible.
It was just a really bad choice. It's the kind of choice that as an actor you think is going to be cool. But somebody, your agent or the director, has to be like, nah, let's not do it that way.
please.
You
Don't.
can't have only yes men.
Yeah.
Why do Ocean and Pitt trick everybody and say Danny's out of the heist?
Fun. I think it's fun. I think they like the adrenaline, and I think that they like to have audiences have an extra like 10 or 12 minutes into the movie.
Everybody got to get heisted on different multiple levels. There have to be twists that even don't make sense, just because twists delight us in a heist context, and so there have to be just like random ones.
Because when the audience is doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is what,
Yeah,
they don't care about that other stuff.
Final speed round question: Julia Roberts or $160 million?
Julia Roberts. It's so easy. That's the easiest one. But I do have to say, if you're Julia Roberts and you see your man saying that, I think on some level you have to be like, $160 million is a lot of money. I mean,
it is his whole career.
and it's like, he would lose his job. He would lose everything. It's his job, and he's working in his capacity right then, like to secure the money.
Saying something to a crook isn't legally binding.
Yeah, but still, Julia Roberts.
But still. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's awards season. Taste buds. Despite the talented Mr. Soderbergh, despite the star-studded cast, despite the work of Ted, screenwriter,
Griffin.
this was not... Huh?
Griffin.
Hey, sometimes when you have a bunch of notes in front of you, you can't have time to find the
Please
right
do
note.
not stop me when I'm in the middle of an intro.
This movie was not nominated, or at least did not win, any Oscars. And I refuse to look that up. That is boo. I agree. The credit is. But tonight...
Not even Elliot Gould?
Not even
That's
Elliot Gould.
hard to believe.
But, like, variety could have been like, Gould goes for gold. Baffa, baffa, baffa.
That's a fucking great headline.
That would have been great.
So we'll be giving several out tonight, and you will also be getting awarded for your awards, starting with Best Fit, Greg.
Okay, so funny. We were just talking about Elliot Gould. I looked at all the different fits, and the collars were too small, collars were too big. I couldn't find one that really said Greg.
Not a good collar in the whole movie.
I looked at Ruben's robe from the scene where they first meet Ruben, and he like enumerates the different successful heists, or like the most successful heist. It's got like a big green part, green sleeves. It's so big, and it's kind of like florid, and it looks so comfortable, and it makes him look like a mogul or like a Don, or really kind of like an emperor. He almost looks like Ozymandias or something, and it's just... Honestly, of all the outfits in the entire movie, it's the only one that I wish I could get my grubby paws on.
This is my pick, and I'm going to talk to you about it right now. The other thing, too, is that he's talking about Caesar's Palace, and George Clooney grew up getting famous on the Caesar hairdo, but now Ruben has the Caesar hairdo, and it really
Eating a Caesar salad.
And I feel like that there was a time when... like before we were born, maybe, where you could go to Vegas and you could just see these people everywhere, you know, and like it doesn't just make Ruben funny to look at, but like it sort of dates him. And like there was this time where I was king, and now all of the other people in the movie feel like today's kings, modern kings, right? Like that's how we're supposed to dress. But Ruben is just like that. You are from the past, and we know it right away because of the robe and the necklace. Like getting
he lives in a pleasure palace
in the chest hair.
Yeah, and he's the money man. Like that's all he's good for. Is he fronts the bill for their exorbitant things. They like he gives them millions of dollars to steal millions of dollars.
He's so manipulatable. Like all we want to do is watch Danny and Rusty like manipulate people, and he's like, wait, What do you mean, Terry Benedict? Get over here and talk to me again.
That is the clear winner. I think a close second is Saul's fisherman hat, Hawaiian shirt with a khaki jacket, khaki pants. But you guys got the clear one.
Yeah.
There. Coolest moment, Ryan.
Well, Mike, I'm a little bit older than when I first saw this movie. I know this movie's super cool from start to finish, but what I think of cool, it may be different than when I first saw it. Now what I think of as cool is the Bellagio fountain. The moment where 10 of the 11 are all there and they all leave at different times. The direction from Soderbergh was to just leave when you think it's appropriate for your character. And so they all go away in a random order. They're all standing in a random order and they all leave in a random order. And the music and the background and the feeling of victory that we get from that, I actually kind of do think is the coolest moment of the movie.
It's pretty cool. It's very it shows that even though we didn't see it, they're all connected. That random standing in random order kind of showed that. Also, why not all go together? Did you already split it? It's very confusing. It's not
you're standing 100 feet away from the scene of the crime, all together as a group.
And there is something sad because Saul is the last one, right?
Saul is the last one, yeah.
And there's something sad because it's definitely this dude's last heist for sure.
Is, yeah.
And there's something bittersweet in his face, oh man, I did it. And
maybe his last night ever. So
yeah, he probably at the end of the scene, he just turns to dust. Carl Reiner did that as an improv.
But I think the other thing too that it says about the movie is that Vegas is gaudy. That Bellagio fountain is not in of itself pretty. It's just a bunch of bullshit. But if you add a little bit to it, then you can have it. I think that's what they saw about Vegas is that if we put a little bit of effort into it, we can have them looking at these fireworks, these water fireworks, and then walk away at different times. And then that can be the thing that adds to it. And I think that's what Soderbergh brings to what could have been a maybe B plus script.
Greg, what's cooler than the Bellagio?
The thing that keeps this movie from being a story about a washed-up guy who refuses to give up on former glory until he gets one of his friends killed is the fact that when Yen gets his hand stuck in the vault and should, for all purposes, be exploded right then and there, but lucks out because some element of the planning has failed and the batteries in the detonating device do not work, and so he's able to get away. This is a cool moment, and it's all the other cool moments flow from it. Because if he gets blowed up right here and splattered all over the inside of the vault, nothing that happens in this movie is cool or cute or funny. It's kind of a different movie about how everything is broken, and you're not you have to give up on your past glories.
When they go to the Bellagio,
I want to see 2/3 of an Ocean's movie, and then 1/3 of them.
The door falls down, and just Yen is just there's just a pink mist inside the vault, and they all look at each other honestly, what have we done? Why did we do this? A life has ended here forever.
So it's cool that it didn't.
It's cool that instead it's kind of they have a fun, quippy conversation, and that actually includes George Clooney saying you don't see Yen getting upset about it. And Yen's life is being saved at the moment by this moment. So it's fun because he should be dead. He should be a dead person. But instead, it's kind of we got to switch these batteries, but he should be dead.
Well, now I think a lot differently about this movie because there's so many moments that they wanted for us to pick. There's so many try hard cool moments, and these are the two that we went with. So maybe this movie's a bunch of bullshit.
I think an under the radar cool moment is when he reverse pickpockets Linus.
Yeah.
And his business card only says his name.
No number,
because
no
he's the
email.
kind of guy who will always, he knows he's going to always write a handwritten message on
no
it.
facts.
That's pretty cool. But I like the old man version of cool given by Ryan. It's very sweet. What made you cringe, Greg?
Obviously, it's just basically how the movie handles Tess as a score. Julia Roberts comes in and really fights so much of that off, but there's still that lingering, and in a movie that celebrates in a kind of uncomplicated way a lot of masculinity, then also having her be what the boys are fighting over, and then her deciding who she's going to go with at the end. Just, there's not a lot that's cringy in this movie, but that is cringy.
That'll do it. Ryan?
Yeah, I this was the time that I watched it where I was sort of swept away by the old school Hollywood of just this is how it used to work, and I don't know, tried to fight against that. The thing that was so stand out to me was how often the thing that like stood out even in a 2001 movie was like, what does he speak Chinese? There's like 3 or 4 times where the Chinese guy will speak his language and they'll be like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And it's a punchline. Like,
right. That's the only joke.
This is before China put a stop to that kind of thing.
Okay, well, maybe this is a good thing that China did. In the house, Brad Pitt reveals that he knows Chinese, and then they all look at Brad Pitt like, what the fuck, man?
Chinese?
What are you, a weirdo?
I thought that was such a cool character note that he...
And then leave it alone,
he doesn't flaunt it, he just does it.
Don't hang a lantern on it. And then when they're in the van watching Matt Damon run around, Yen has an idea for what he could do, but it's in Chinese, and then all 4 of them slowly turn around like, I'm sorry, what the fuck did you just say? Was that in Chinese? That was like they use it as a punchline 4 times in the movie.
Yeah, so it's lazy and it's racist. Another cringy moment is when Brad Pitt picks up George Clooney for the second time in the film from prison. He's in a tux, and Brad Pitt says, "I hope you were the groom." It's like we didn't need. We got 2001. We got through this 2-hour movie
really
without a
hoping
gay
he
joke.
was going to say we were both the groom. It was a marriage of 2 men.
But for this one, I got to give it to Greg. But it is a film of its time. Performance, Ryan. Who gives the pound for pound performance?
I mean, I would love to eventually give this to some sort of supporting player, but I think that the essence of George Clooney, like we had a Rushmore, and I get how he is Everett from Oh Brother, and I get how he's Michael Clayton, and I get how he's Jack Foley from Out of Sight, but George Clooney's ability to just like be calm and get people to listen to him, I think that Danny Ocean is the ultimate character for him. And I buy it. If this was Brad Pitt, who I would never listen to, this movie would not work. Just the whole I mean
well, he's unsettlingly handsome. And there's a danger there where George Clooney is charmingly handsome, and you can feel why everybody's why Bruiser, why literally everybody is just like, I'll go with you.
A little weathered, maybe, a little smarter.
Definitely. A little bit more masculine.
Yeah, a little less perfect.
Yeah.
A little more action. But yeah, I just think that his whole thing sets Soderbergh. As much credit as I want to give for Soderbergh making this a great movie, I think that it's Clooney's je ne sais quoi, his essence that sort of makes this movie. And I think there's so many people that I want to give it to, and I'll talk about them after Greg goes, but I think I got to go with the Clooners.
For me, it's Julia Roberts, because I really feel like this movie is in danger of tripping over its own dick a lot of different times, and I think she comes in and just keeps that from happening by really just turning out. It's pound for pound performance, right? So she's not in it that much, but she's doing the best acting in the movie in her scenes, and I just think that she adds a dimension to it that keeps the movie from just being sort of boys stuff.
Without it hanging a lantern on that.
Yeah, I don't feel like the movie goes out of its way.
There's no Avengers Girls Get It Done vibe.
Oh, God,
She just quietly crushes everybody's performance into dust.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And it's just remember I was in that other movie just last year? I was pretty good in that, too. All right. Everybody, have a good day, everybody.
Greg, peace out.
That one's going to Greg.
I want to give note, too, though, that, we were all supposed to say Casey Affleck and Scotty Conn, but Carl Reiner and Elliot Gould do so much more than those two in every fucking way possible. They are the perfect amount of over the top, but fit in this movie. That those two,
but still human.
Yeah, that those two other guys could not do. So those two guys, I thought those two guys make this movie.
Scott Conn and
nope.
Ryan gets deducted points there. Greg, director's signature moment.
Okay, so I think it's when Carl Reiner is laying out, going over the whole plan and about how difficult it is and how improbable it is. And there's this very slow zoom in the whole time. And he's just recapping for all the groundlings who maybe have zoned out recently. And then he gets to the end of it and it goes, and after all that, they're just supposed to let us walk out with it. And we go back to George Clooners and he goes, yeah, exactly. And it's hell yeah, dude. We've just had the whole heist laid out, and you're not going to tell us how we're going to do this part with the money, and we don't even care because you're so cool, and we know that you know, and that's all that really matters. It makes no sense you shouldn't try to hide any part of your plan from your team, but it makes it cool, and that's what the whole movie is in service to.
Ryan?
All right. One of the reasons that Soderbergh is my number one director, even though that Mike insists that my number one director is Noah Baumbach, and that's not really his decision, that's my decision, but yet he still forces me
I'm just looking at facts.
He forces me to say that it's Noah Baumbach, is efficiency. And we've already talked about how tonight, like, anybody else would have made this movie 2.5 or 3 hours. But I love how Soderbergh, like, takes this pretty typical script, if we're going to be honest, and makes it different and makes it more efficient. And I think the best part of that, and then also, like, shines a light on, like, how movies used to work, like, all of his inspirations. And I think the best way to do that, or the best example of that, is when we're in a hallway and we see golf balls going into a cup. Just golf ball, golf ball, golf ball, and then it is Andy Garcia on the phone, talking tough, what's his name, Tony Benedict?
Mm-hmm.
Saying, like, no, yeah, get him, kill him, put him in the sand, or whatever the fuck casino owners say. And then he walks from where he's shooting, where he's putting golf balls into the bathroom, but the camera goes onto the mirror of Julia Roberts, and then it zooms in a little bit, which is a little like 70s, like, let's scoot in and ignore everything else. It's all the same take, but we see Julia Roberts go from, like, I am not sure who I love, and this is weird for me. Which of these two handsome dudes am I into? And then Benedict asks her, what are you thinking about? And she's like, then she goes back to full-on acting. Oh, nothing. Oh, I'm thinking about you. She says, I'm thinking about you. There's no way that if you're in the same room with somebody that you're actually thinking about them. But yeah, like, that could have been 12 pages of screenplay. And I love how Soderbergh does it all in one take, zooms in when he needs to. And I think that's what I want from him.
Yeah, the combination of efficiency and camera work.
Ryan,
unfortunately, have to give it to Ryan. Those are mostly because I love what the rise it gets out of you. Those are your oceanies for the evening. When we come back, it is to reveal who will be my best friend next week and how we think Ocean's 11 will do in the bracket. Taste buds. My tasty buds. How are you feeling Ocean's 11 can do in the finale?
This is not the worst movie we have watched so far.
Oh no. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely not the worst movie that we've watched so far.
But then what is, though?
Are you saying ever or 2001?
No, in 2001. I'm saying this is not the worst movie we've watched in 2001.
Oh. No, this is the worst movie that we... No, this is better than Lord of the Rings. Yeah, this is better than Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is fun, but this is a better movie.
I agree. I think this is better than Lord of the Rings. Is that weird, Mike, for us to say?
I mean, they're both ensemble pieces. They're both about the found family you find.
They're kind of the same movie, right?
They're kind of the same
they really
movie,
are.
But this one
get the
is
band together?
so much
This is
better.
a reverse heist. This is you're trying to get the thing in the place instead of take the thing out of the place.
This is better.
And they're also kind of like those two movies, though, they should be compared to each other, these two movies, because they exist on the same tier, I think, which is very solid. Like, nothing wrong with them. Great. Very cool. But just, like...
I want to go be moved. I'm going to eat a ton of popcorn, and I want to be in the hands of masters. I really do think that, like, with Lord of the Rings and Ocean's 11, we're in the hands of masters.
Yeah. I want it to be exciting and fun and funny, but at the same time, like, also really good. And it delivers on all that. But it's just... There is a gear that's missing, and I think that, like, Spirited Away has that gear. The Royal Tenenbaums has that gear. Piano Teacher, thank God, has that gear.
Thank God you said it right? Is that what that was?
Yeah, thank God I said it right for the first time in, like, 8 episodes.
The piano is. But, like Spirited Away is hard, because Spirited Away has all of the excitement of Lord of the Rings and Ocean's 11, and then so much more.
Yeah.
That one's rough. But I do want to be on a podcast where we can look at Piano Teacher, which is trying to say so much, and Ocean's 11, Lord of the Rings, and be like, you know what? Actually, these are better than Piano Teacher.
And that's the kind of podcast you are on and helped form, Ryan.
Are they, though?
We'll see.
In
a few weeks.
In theory, yes. I mean,
you are on that kind of podcast. I don't know if we're saying that right here tonight.
Yeah.
That's
the theory of the case, though.
The last time I watched it, I think there is something so different about watching it and having to, like, break it down. The last time it's like, it's fine. And this time, so much more getting why its reputation. And I kind of want to watch the other ones, even though, depending on who you talk to, they are not good. Or
12 is
the secret best.
12 is really interesting because it's like another layer of meta because it's about being a sequel.
Yeah, I don't know if I would feel the way I feel about 11 if I hadn't seen 12. Like, their whole, like, fuck around who gives a shit thing.
Yeah.
I think that's because I saw 12. Like, the last 10 minutes of 12 are mind-blowingly insane and stupid.
In a fun way?
Yeah, like Fast and Furious ways, yeah. Like,
do you not know what happens?
No, I don't think I've seen...
You should watch it, dude. You should watch it.
Is it the one with Julia Roberts as Julia Roberts?
Yes, it is.
And Julia Roberts. But yeah, I want to celebrate the whole franchise. I love heists so much. And now, gentlemen, how do you feel you did personally tonight?
I think I did terrible. I think that I think that Mike's a bad host, and that I liked the movie too much, and I liked myself too much, and I think I complimented Greg too much, and I think that Mike doesn't have any time for any of those things.
I think it was a low scoring night because the movie had things to celebrate, but it didn't engender, I think, the deeper levels of conversation. Mm-hmm. So I imagine it was kind of a low scoring night. Ryan, I think probably you did edge me.
I think Ryan's always edging. Just never quite coming. And I think, Greg, you always think Ryan did better. Ryan always thinks he lost and it's my fault. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. I do have to, like, I got to say, like, these scores, I think, are because of the things Greg said. So it's not necessarily your fault. But, Ryan, you got a pitiful 27.
Uh-huh. So that means I won then. The way he's saying that
win.
Greg
got 25.
That's his new thing that he's been doing.
Yeah, every week.
It's hurtful to me.
It's not every week.
Every week he has to do this shit?
Change it up every time.
That's true. That way you don't know, because we used to just...
Somebody has to.
And people
honestly,
love it.
I love that self-care. I think it's important.
in this economy, you got to. That is Ocean's 11. I had fun talking to you both about it. Next week, listener, we are stepping out of just talking about one movie and talking about numerous in the state of the franchise. And the following week, we're talking about Y Tu Mamá También. Until then, keep watching those movies.
Up.